Upstate Vuew, episode 1. Here with my boy Leekyxiv, the artist behind the intro music to this podcast. Only fitting he'd be the first guest on the show. What up, Leek?
Yo, what's going on? It's Leekyxiv. So for those who don't know me, my name's Leekyxiv, Leeky14. I'm from New York. I'm from Upstate New York. Not too far upstate, not Utica, but I live in Utica now. I got a couple projects under my belt. I've been making music since I was probably in high school. So I'm probably 7 years in now. I've released albums everywhere on all streaming platforms. 2018, I got 2 of those, XIV and Expression. Released 2 projects, collabs last year in 2019. Just released another single in January of this year. And I just released a single with my man Generic, who runs the bakery, called Plan. Go get that. It's out everywhere, all streaming platforms. And I'm always just working on music, man. I don't think I'm working on any projects for a while. I'm gonna just start putting out a lot of singles, I think.
Have you had more success promoting singles and drawing attention to individual songs than trying to promote a whole project?
Yeah, especially as an independent artist, it's hard to get people who aren't fans yet to just listen to a whole project, So I think I can build up a better following releasing consecutive singles rather than projects.
Yeah, I'd have to think it'd be easier to capture attention for one 3 or 4 minute song that you put a lot into than trying to get somebody to listen to a 8-track EP or something.
And it hurts when people don't.
Yeah, because you pour your soul into a concept for a project and you see it one way, but attention span is tough to come by.
It's different.
2020. So now that we know a little bit about what you've been doing recently, give me a deeper look into the origin story of Leeky. Take me back to Leeky as a kid, coming up in high school. I know basketball's obviously been a big part of your life, but how did you go from athlete to young kid to creator to rapping and putting out stuff?
I've always been a content consumer, I would say. I fell in love with YouTube pretty early. So I was always on YouTube. I actually had a YouTube channel, which we're not going to bring up because there's some old videos from elementary school, middle school, YouTube that are probably still up there somewhere. I used to make YouTube videos. Me and my boy Randall wanted to blow up, be YouTube stars. But I love music. I was big into all genres of music, pop music. I love Michael Jackson, a little bit like rock, alternative. Big Linkin Park fan. And then one day I just became so, I think I heard, I always loved hip hop, but I heard Graduation by Kanye West, and it really changed my life, and I became obsessed with hip hop kind of. And then that's when I became, started being an artist. It really just started out of nowhere. I found a friend who made his own music, and he became my best friend, and that kind of led to me creating music as well. It became an outlet. It was really cool.
So Graduation, what was it about Graduation that did it that was different? Because that was kind of, at the time, that was a kind of pushing the boundaries of what hip-hop was, and kind of was starting to get into, it wasn't quite 808s, but he was starting to get into that more soulful kind of...
His first 3 projects, even going back to them, I don't even think I heard them before that, probably not really. Probably singles, but I vividly remember hearing Good Morning. I think my sister's friend was playing it, and I was like, what is that song? Something about the first just 30 seconds of that song is just so enticing, and it was really exciting, and it made me really get into that album, and that was one of the first albums that I became obsessed with, which is why it's my favorite album ever. It really opened an eye, a creative eye, I think I haven't heard before then in the music world. I've never really, before that point, probably even thought about creating my own music. That was just a process because it became an outlet,
That's interesting because Kanye can be viewed as a creator in a bunch of different ways. So I'm sure there's some parallels between you and him in terms of how he's been able to go from music to art to trying to get into film and everything else he's done. It seems like you're pretty well rounded like that too. So
who I love? I love Donald Glover. I knew him before he was an artist. I knew him before Childish Gambino, because he was a YouTuber. Him and his friends had this YouTube comedy group, Derek Comedy. You can probably still go find their sketches now. And that's how I knew him before he started making music. And I was like, yo, if I could do something like that, that would be so cool. And I watch him on Community still. I think it was so cool if he could be an actor. And then plenty of rappers like became actors, acted a little bit. And I think that is so cool that you can hop in and out of industries like that.
Definitely. It seems like now more than ever people are able to leverage their clout or fame in one area. And if they want to put the work in, transition to a bunch of other stuff. So I could definitely see you making a play at that. Who, outside of Kanye and Graduation, who else, and Gambino, who else inspired you as a creator, whether music or coming from film, any kind of creation?
If we're sticking in the music world for a second here, I love Kendrick. I love Mac Miller as well. I think Mac Miller has musically probably like one of the biggest influences. Probably Mac and Wiz have one of the biggest influences over me. But Kendrick Lamar is my favorite artist like to date. I think he's put out 2-3 of like the greatest hip hop projects ever. And I would like argue till I'm blue in the face over that matter.
What's your top 3 for Kendrick?
Oh, it's Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly. Those 3 projects are really phenomenal.
Yeah, to me, Good Kid, Mad City was just like one of those projects that top to bottom there was no fillers whatsoever. Yeah. It was like 11, 12 tracks. Yeah. And there was no waste. It was just bar after bar for the entire thing. So yeah, that's when he really came onto the scene as one of the best. And that album had a couple of singles that were like equally mainstream appealing, but like
crazy
could appeal to real hip hop heads too.
Yes,
which is crazy.
Every song on that album had a meaning. Me and Eric talk about that album probably like weekly. I love that.
No, I think that'll go down in time as on the level of the And All Eyes on Me or Life After Death. Some of the more.
It's weird seeing things in time versus how they'll be respected like out of time, like LeBron's career. Yeah. Even Steph's career. Steph's career 10 years from now is gonna be bonkers.
Well, even like now, it's a fitting time talking about the Jordan documentary that just came out.
Yeah.
Like that documentary is meaning so many different things to people both now and people that grew up watching it.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have a different view on that legacy, but you're right. It is interesting to see how people will look back on Steph's, 50, 40, 90 season and the Warriors run and just what LeBron's been able to do. So.
It's wild. This era of sports that we're living through in general is pretty crazy. That we got to live through the LeBron, Kobe, Tom Brady era, the Peyton Manning era. Like, we got some lucky. We are born in a nice spot here.
For sure, and it's interesting because. Like talking about how things are remembered over time. Things are moving so fast nowadays. It almost seems like an awesome album will drop, or there'll be a crazy sports game, or a season line in a certain way. But a few days later, we're on to the next thing so fast. Yeah. And looking back on it, it will be interesting to see how some of these events are viewed. I think about even lately some classic albums that have dropped that are here today, gone tomorrow in a lot of ways, because the volume has just gotten so much more. Like, there's new music dropping every Friday. There's singles people are putting out every day. Like the power of social media and just mass marketing of the people at the top of the game are able to really get things out quickly and everybody sees it. So it's like an everyday thing. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I have to segue into this. It's for the listeners. I substitute teach at an elementary high school this past fall. So talking to kids about music, right? Because they discovered that I make music and they always want to talk to me about music. I would ask them about music and I would ask them like what their favorite album is, and they could not answer me. And so I realized kids or like this generation doesn't listen to whole albums anymore. And that's where Spotify comes in. People only want to listen to playlists. They only want to listen to that one song. And that's why people just make albums based around one single, or like Tekashi 6ix9ine put out 7 singles that all went platinum. and then he puts out an album full of singles.
Basically, those 7 singles.
Yeah, basically, and that's it. And Jordan Lucas just put out an album, and every single song he put on the album, almost like he released already as a single.
No, I think that speaks directly to the short attention span we have, because nobody's concerned with a complete work of art. And don't get me wrong, there's still projects that transcend that narrative and like are able to get through. But on a whole, like nobody's grown up listening to albums anymore.
No. And it's weird to think about, because there definitely still people are people in my generation, your generation, definitely still listen to albums. Music lovers definitely still listen to albums. So sometimes, which is what I've discovered during this quarantine about myself, how I need to grow as an artist, it is very hard to not be influenced by your environment. And this could go outside of musically, like whatever you're doing. Creatively, it's hard not to be influenced by your surroundings. So I think my my music that I really want to make, I'm starting to make, the more that I'm like true to myself and not take so much influence by artists around me.
So has being alone during this quarantine really led you to be more introspective and feel like what you're really feeling a little more? Yeah,
and I love going to the studio and vibing with other artists and just like creating songs, of their style. But I really think I work best working alone, like working and just tipping my creative hat and like going in the direction that like I want to go. And not just making music that other people want to hear, or I know that's popular right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and you're able to probably better focus that energy when you're not hearing all the outside influence, and there's not all that external stimulation there. So
it's hard though.
Do you find that you're creatively different when you're upstate versus when you're back home towards the city? Is there any difference in like the surrounding area of where you are at that time and how you're thinking and what you're feeling?
I think so. Even cause my old music, I still have old music basically when I was downstate on SoundCloud, and then most of my music that's on all platforms is most music that I've recorded up here. But some of it I wrote when I was still living back home a little bit. And I've definitely grown a lot. I've always loved writing hooks, writing fun songs. But I think I used to rap a lot. I used to like boom bap a lot more than pop rap. But coming up here kind of made me lean towards that a little bit more than I probably even realized, But I think I still made a lot of music that's true to myself, because even on my last album, Expression, Zone is probably the best song, one of the best songs I've ever made, and it's not too pop rappy. So I think I definitely have grown as I've moved through life, but definitely being in different spots plays a funny role.
Yeah, that's got to be challenging, because I know being completely true to yourself, you're more of a zone or a frown when you're more recent writers. Like that's the type of content you want to put out, but the narrative has become so much about the hits and the pop rap. And putting out if you want to achieve that, 10 minutes of clout on social media, you got to have a banger. So it's got to be tough to balance your true self with trying to break through and gain more followers, I guess.
Very hard.
That's something that I'm sure every artist has dealt with. And what would you say has been like one of the most challenging parts of being an artist and trying to grow a following?
Something that probably, I said I've been making music for like 7 years, probably something I've only realized these past 2 years or so is that it doesn't matter if your friends really like your music. Like at the end of the day, you guys all like different music to begin with. So you don't really need your friends to like your music. You need supporters. Like you always need friends and family to support you. But you need fans. You need to go out. If your friends don't like your music, that's fine. You need to go out and find the right people who will like your music and want to like your music. Which is something as an artist I think is really hard to get, just because you think everybody's your friend, people like you, like they're gonna like your music, or it's a weird thing, but like it makes sense.
Yeah, and we tend to think that having friends and people will vocally say the right things and support you, and of course everyone's gonna repost your stuff and this and that, but to really develop a true following and people that actually would listen to your stuff if it wasn't you that they knew, that's a tough thing to do. And I feel like a lot of times people say the right things and people will support, but like everyone's so busy and everyone's got their own stuff going on. It's tough to really get devout following early on.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's why, like, my friends or just people that I know, I can tell, like, I can literally tell there's levels to it. There's like the supporters that like I like you, I'm gonna like your post on Instagram and Facebook, like, just because I like you, like, no matter what. And then there's the people who are like, I like it and like maybe I'll listen to it, but like they don't listen to hip hop, it's just fine, And then there's the people that like you can tell this by just talking to them. And then some people like pretend like they really are following, but you're like, you don't, like, and it's cool. You don't really have to pretend that you do though, and that's where it gets funny also. But just talking to people, you can really tell where they're at with you, which is kind of funny to.
For sure, and like in full, taking a real life example, like I'll download every one of your projects on Apple Music, but that don't mean that I'm listening to them over and over again.
Hell yeah.
But I think that just speaks to the nature of anything. Like there's been albums put out by Drake and Wiz that I love that I might listen to once and forget about just because, like we said, the stuff is coming out so fast. So it's tough to really. The barriers to entry have never been lower. Anyone could create on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, YouTube, put stuff out and develop a following, but it's also never been harder to stand out. Like everyone's got a shot, but how are you going to separate yourself from the pack? So
I've been thinking about that a lot during quarantine too. It's like, really, how can I make myself stand out from people around me?
So you've obviously been on this for a while, and it means more to you than just trying to make it big. Like there's a creative expression piece of this. You really enjoy what you do a lot of times, and you're still obviously going hard at it. How do you see yourself developing over the next few years? Do you have any milestones? Do you have any plans for maybe looking to do other things? Or I'm at it, but more so, you're still chasing this dream, really. Yeah. You're not sold out yet that I need to go find some big job and move here and do this. Like, you're still trying to make what you want to happen.
Absolutely.
How do you think about that? And do you have what do you think about timelines that people try to put on people?
It's tough, being young and like you thinking you don't have time, and then like you find these greater creatives and they're telling you like, yo, like I'm telling you, looking you in your eye, like you have time. You know what I mean? Like all these great companies, and a lot of these people, they didn't create these companies till they're 27, 30, 36, 40. Like it's a patience game, and it's really hard to even get into that conversation sometimes with family and friends. Even like go that way. It's like so. The type of person that I am, like I'm gonna just do my work, and especially so when it comes to my parents, I'm not so transparent. Like they're like I always tell my mom I was going to college, I was finishing college, even doing all this music stuff, and then she was the one who was like, like I might go get my master's someday, but she was like, I know you don't wanna. That's not the path that you're on right now, like so she understands, but she also pushes me to, hey, you should like go take a class, like, and I'm like, absolutely, like that's a fair compromise. Like, like I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and then we can compromise, and which is so cool that my mom and me and my dad as well are on that level of understanding. But yeah, I love to. I am, like I said, it's hard for me to put this into words to like go convince people around me that I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm more of a just like I'm gonna just go do it, and like people see the results, and like they won't. So like I feel like people don't even know when it'll happen. If it happens, it's like I didn't even know, Well,
one thing I think I've learned too is that nobody cares at all what you say you're gonna do.
Facts.
Like you can waste all the time in the world deliberating and telling people what you plan on doing, but at the end of the day, like if you're not putting stuff out and like that's gonna speak for itself.
Yes.
So there's really no need. I think more than anything, you got to trust yourself internally that you know the path you're on, and that if it's no longer serving you in a positive way, you're gonna be smart enough and wise enough to change courses. But I think like we put a lot of self-imposed pressure on ourselves at times to conform and to follow the path that people want you to. But I also think in 2020 that people are starting to understand a little bit more that there's other ways. It's not 1950 anymore where you have to go to university and get a degree and that's the one path and work at a big company. Like I think people are opening their minds a little bit, and that's not to say that like it's a safe thing to do by any means.
No.
Like you might look back one day and wish that you did something else, but at the end of the day, like you got to live your life the way you want to, and
that's
not,
why
and not regret it.
Bro, like, and I want to just be happy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be happy, and I don't think I'll be happy going down a traditional route and just living living something I don't want to live. I don't want to do.
Yeah, and you're smart enough and young enough to know that like you might wake up when you're 25 and be like, all right, like maybe I want to go do something else now, and that's fine. Like at the end of the day, what is this really all for? To live. I feel like at the end of the day, it's to live the life that you want to live and to be fulfilled in what you're doing on a daily basis.
Correct. You know, and that's why at the end of the day, like I make music not for the reason of like I want to blow up and be like, you know, like I want to make music because I like making music. You know, making music makes me happy. Therefore, I want to share it with other people.
And I think people really feel that. I think you've really. Well, my favorite song you've ever put out was Frown. It's really not even close. I know like real rap fans and people that are on their own journey will appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you could really feel the emotion that you put into that, and it's just a different level of depth compared to a lot of music you hear from independent artists nowadays. Like most people aren't putting out stuff like that.
Thank you, bro.
So if you find people that resonate with something like that, that could be your ticket.
Yeah. So me and Eric are having the conversation because it's hard for me to localize so hip hop is very funny because it gets real regional. Like you can almost hear a song and say, yo, that's from the East Coast, that's West Coast, that's like from Atlanta, like specifically.
Definitely.
So hip hop is very funny in that sense. So it's like, I don't know sometimes where my music sounds like it comes from.
Yeah, that Utica sound.
You know, like what is like, I guess it just sounds like it's from the East Coast maybe, or it's like sometimes maybe my music might resonate with people in LA more. Like, it's weird. You never know, because a lot of people end up moving to pursue their dream because their music might like follow suit.
You know what's
else.
crazy though? I was thinking about this the other day. I've had this conversation because more people have chances to put out music now with just the advances in technology and how easy it is to get started. It's not as much just like if you think about the 90s, like Big and Pac, Nas, Jay-Z, it's not just New York and LA anymore. Like there's distinct sounds that you could identify out of Pittsburgh, out of Houston, out of all kinds of cities across the US. And there are more distinct sounds, I guess. So
that's true.
I think that it can kind of go both ways. But and again, in a spot like upstate New York, it might be tougher to really regionalize yourself. I guess.
It's weird.
But you do sound. I would say you sound more East Coast than West Coast. Still, like there's still an understanding there.
I grew up on boom bap, so.
You listen to a lot of Logic when you were.
I did not.
No.
I really grew up. So I'm telling you, I grew up on like pop music, and all that. And then it wasn't until I heard like the Carter 3 in graduation where I became obsessed with hip hop and really like followed hip hop. Till then, I went back, of course, and did my research, listening to older artists. Like I listened to Nas. I think Illmatic is probably top 3 hip hop projects.
Yeah, I would say Illmatic's probably my top hip hop album ever.
Yeah.
I don't know, like top to bottom. You could feel that project in a way that you can't feel a lot of projects today, or I guess feel a complete theme painted. Like you could listen to a song on that album and know that it's on that album.
Yes, absolutely.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And you know what else, what we haven't touched on yet, it's different from people who like listen to music and like people who listen to music. You know, like we listen to music. Like you're listening to the words that are coming out of people's mouth,
sure.
the message, the theme. People, or like the popular end of hip hop nowadays, is almost strictly using your voice as an instrument. You know, and like people are just vibing with the music. So it's all about how it sounds, how good it sounds. Which isn't bad because it makes for very creative and interesting music. But sometimes it leads to that repetitive, no message.
Yeah, like I think I've had this debate too. There is a lot of music nowadays that doesn't have a message as you would think about it when you talk about traditional artists and which you would regard as good quality hip hop. But there is a lot of diversity in the sense that, like we said, almost anyone can put stuff out. So I agree that a lot of it sounds the same if you're evaluating it, saying that there's no message or deep lyrics involved. But I also think that there's so many different sounds nowadays. When you think about everyone from Lil TJ, A Boogie to Post Malone to the still traditional rap artists like Kendrick and Wiz has his own unique sound. Like there's way more diversity that way than there was in the 90s.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't always mean that it's going to be quality from a message or lyrical standpoint. So.
Which is fine. Young Thug is one of my favorite artists, and I'm never turning on a Young Thug track to hear his bars.
Never.
I'm listening his vocal inflections, the way Thug is crazy. Thug is one of my favorite artists.
Crazy talented.
Talented, yo. And that's what I'm saying. It leads to these artists being super creative because they're just on the fly making stuff up. And which leads to either great improv moments or bad improv moments, which is like the cool thing about hip hop, though. At the end of the day.
No, I agree. So to wrap this up a little bit, I got some rapid fire questions for you. I want you to tell me first things coming to your mind for these current albums or artists you're listening to right now.
Tory Lanez dropped an album, and I like it a lot, yo. I'm not a big Tory Lanez fan, but it is very good. The production on it is great.
Yeah, I like the album. I haven't listened top to bottom more than once, but it's a good album. Favorite and least favorite things about living in upstate New York?
I like chicken Rickies. They're not the greatest invention in the world as y'all make it seem to, but chicken Rickies and some Utica greens go crazy. I guess we'll stick with food and say that tomato pie is the worst thing I've ever had in my life.
Is there anything comparable to tomato pie downstate? Like, would that just be seen as something that nobody's eating?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. It has grown on me. Like, I do get it, but for me coming from down, I'd rather just eat pizza. You're like, it's a different app, and it's a whole different thing. But I see that and I think pizza, so just give me pizza.
It's not up to par with pizza. Favorite accounts you're following on social media right now?
Gary V. Gotta give it up to my daily Gary V. It's hard not to give my daily dose. It's kind of funny. There's not many accounts I will go to daily or even hope to see besides my boy Gary V right now. I'm a bad consumer. I think that's why. But yeah, we'll go rapid fire.
Nah, sometimes you don't need to consume that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes less is more. So Gary would say it himself. Stop watching my stuff and go do something.
I do get my daily dose of Gary though.
Gary's on a different level than everybody else. He just says, "Where is Leeky in 5 years?"
5 years. What's that, 28? I definitely want to be with. I think settled down by that time. By I'm 28, I almost think I want to have my partner in mind. Because I think I almost want to have a kid by that age. So I definitely want a family, low key, believe it or not. But I definitely want a family in 5 years. But I definitely hope that I can translate my talents into some other field. I do write. I am in the middle of writing a book that'll probably take me 5 years to write. But I am writing a book. I do want to start writing a blog. So hopefully in other outlets besides music. Yeah.
What is one thing that nobody would ever guess or know about you?
One thing that most people definitely that listen to my music don't know about me is that I used to play football when I was younger, talking elementary school, and my nickname was Shoestring. They call me Shoestring because I would be out in the open by myself and like fall over my feet. Like,
I was hoping you were gonna say you saved the game-winning touchdown once. You grabbed the shoestring.
nah, it was total
Shoestring
opposite.
tackle.
Nah,
I got tripping on the line.
Yeah, just tripping. Like I would be out open like 10 yards past everybody and just trip, fall. Like nah, they hit me.
That must be why you played defense in basketball.
Yeah, don't give me the ball, please.
If you could leave people with one message or one piece of advice, what would it be?
Word. I just put this quote on Twitter the other day. The best advice that I could give anybody is to be yourself. Which again is so hard to do when you have influences like your parents, just in your environment, social media in general. But be yourself. That is where you will be the happiest.
Love it. Definitely hear that. But all right, Leek. We got Leekyxiv on all social media platforms.
Oh yeah.
Twitter, Instagram,
Absolutely.
Spotify, Apple Music.
Yes, sir.
Listen to his stuff. Follow him. TikTok also.
Oh
Big
yeah.
TikTok game.
Definitely
lately,
on
so
TikTok.
That's the next wave. So until next time.
Shout out
thank
Vuew
you.
Media.
Yeah,
Appreciate
they
it.
can't keep up to me when I'm doing my thing. They can't keep up with me when I'm in the fast lane. They can't keep up with me. They can't keep up with me.